Kyle, give us your best stuff on what the Padres are going to do over the next 24 hours. How you doing?
Doing all right, guys. Look, AJ Preller is always aggressive at the deadline. The Padres are having conversations with multiple teams about multiple different combinations. When you talk about AJ Preller and this Padres front office, nothing is off the table. Big, aggressive moves are their MO. That's what they like to do. There are some limiting factors this year, just in terms of they're right around the second luxury tax threshold. They don't have a lot of room to add payroll. And their farm system, it's not terrible, but it's not great. They have limited players they can deal from there too. So there are some limiting factors, but the Padres are always going to be exploring big, aggressive moves, and they're at least having those conversations again this year.
Okay, so let's dive into details. What do they need? And are there any particular names that you think that they're looking for?
Yeah, so the Padres really have multiple areas they need to upgrade in the lineup. They are bottom two in the majors by OPS at catcher, left field, and DH. Three different lineup spots. They're bottom two in the majors. So acquiring bats is priority number one. Look, we've seen some of the names out there. Jaron Duran, who realistically likely isn't getting traded, and the Padres don't have what it would take to acquire him. We've seen Stephen Kwan's name. Realistically, in order for the Padres to get any sort of player with multiple years of control and somewhat of a salary commitment, they're going to have to move salary off their books. And that's where you're starting to see discussions about maybe trading Dylan Cease somewhere and then using that payroll savings to go get two or three bats. Because again, they're not one bat away. They need multiple bats. And that's tricky to do with the limited payroll room they currently have right now.
Is there a move? Is there a move that gets you that baseball trade for Cease or Robert Suarez? I get it. The Red Sox might not want Robert Suarez for Duran. Is there a move that you see out there that takes care of their need and also possibly could move Suarez or Cease?
Nothing that is an easy fit. I think realistically, if the Padres chose to clear some payroll space and move Dylan Cease, Robert Suarez, as you mentioned, has a player option after this year. He's likely going to opt out. So if they chose to move them, it would likely be for prospects. Then they create payroll savings and then use that savings and maybe some of the prospects they acquired to go acquire a big impact bat or two. Because in order to get the quality of hitters they need the payroll space, but they also need some more prospects to deal as well.
Give me the update on Michael King. It sounds like he could be back soon, and we all know how good he can be if he's feeling 100%. I mean, he can be a number one starter and a dude in the playoffs for them, and maybe that's why they're feeling a little bit better about potentially trading away Cease and having him at the top of the rotation.
Michael King, the last update was the Padres expect him to be back sometime in August. Now, I will caution the Padres are an organization that tends to say one thing on a timeline, and it almost always takes longer. So we'll see exactly when he returns. But realistically, part of the reason the Padres are comfortable trading Dylan Cease, he just hasn't been very good this year. You look at some of the peripherals, you like that, but his ERA is 4.79. There's been a lot of outings where he's laboring. We just saw him throw 102 pitches to get through 4 2/3 innings. There's been a lot of 95 pitches for 5 innings, 103 pitches to get through 6. And some of the people who look at the peripherals keep saying, oh, it's going to get better, it's going to get better, it's just bad luck. It's actually getting worse. Dylan Cease has one quality start in the last 6 weeks, and over those 6 weeks, he has a 5.70 ERA. His FIP, for people who like underlying statistics, is in the mid to high fours as well. He's giving up a lot of hard contact this year and a lot of hard contact in the air. His command has not been very good all year, and it's not getting better. So from the Padres' perspective, you look at it and say, despite the fact that Darvish has been hurt most of the year, Joe Musgrove's out for the year after having TJ, Dylan Cease hasn't been very effective, and Michael King is hurt. Despite that, the Padres are top 5 in the majors in ERA, WHIP, and opponent's batting average. They feel like they have enough starting pitching to pick up the slack if they trade Dylan Cease, not just from Michael King, but from some of the other arms in the rotation that have really stepped up and quietly had really good years, like Ryan Bergert, Randy Vasquez, and a couple guys at the back.
Have there been conversations or questions asked of the Padres? Is Dylan Cease healthy? Because you see free agent seasons where players are like, no, I'm playing through this. And some of the peripherals just don't work out.
Yeah, he is healthy. The issue has been command. Again, his velocity is fine. He actually leads the majors in strikeouts per nine. I think a lot of people are missing that. And his command issues, they're not manifesting in walks. He's not walking a lot of batters. What's happening is he's getting into a lot of deep counts. He's falling behind in counts a lot. And then he's also just missing over the plate a lot. Look, every pitcher is going to have a mistake pitch or two or three when you throw 100 pitches a game. Dylan Cease's problem has been he's making 8 or 9 mistake pitches a game. He's allowing about a hit an inning over the last 6 weeks. Again, you look at all the baseball savant metrics, hard hit rate, barrel rate. He's in the bottom half of the league. So his stuff is good enough to miss bats when he's hitting his spots, but there's been too many times over the course of games he's not hitting his spots. And again, it has been 1 or 2 mistakes a game. It's been 8 or 9, and he's giving up a lot of hard contact.
So as someone who loves Dylan Cease, it hurts me to say he's not having a good year because I wanted him to win the Cy Young this year because I love Dylan Cease. So, but more importantly to me is we keep hearing Suarez. Is he the only guy in the bullpen they're willing to move, or what about a Matsui or anybody else on that bullpen, a Morihone, or anybody they would be willing to talk about, or is it just Suarez or bust? And why? I don't even understand why they would trade Suarez. It's not like he's super expensive, and he's been really effective for them.
The Padres bullpen is absolutely their strength. And if they don't have to trade from it, they certainly don't want to. But when you talk about, again, the Padres having all the needs they do offensively and the lack of payroll space, they're going to look at all potential options. And the argument for trading Suarez is he's likely going to opt out at the end of the year. And the Padres can withstand his loss better than they could withstand a loss some other parts of their team. You have Jason Adam, you have Adrian Morihone, you have Jeremiah Estrada. That would be a pretty good 7, 8, 9. So again, it's just going to come down to the right package, the right player. Talk about other guys they could trade. Yuki Matsui, they would love to shed that salary, but his ERA has been the high 4s, low 5s. He just has not been very effective. I can't see many teams taking him on with $20 million left on his contract over multiple years. Wandy Peralta is a fine lefty, but he has 2 player options after this year that you really don't want him to pick up if you're an acquiring team. So it's a little bit tricky. Morihone, Estrada, Adam, they're all cheaper, but because they're cheaper is why the Padres would want to keep them. We'll see what happens, but if they're going to trade someone, considering the need to move money, Suarez is the most logical candidate.
Kratz, if I'm new to card collecting and I'm looking for the safest, most trusted way in the game to acquire cards or to buy a card, but not go through a ton of work where I'm going to the shows, I'm going online doing auctions, I want it all in one place, I'm going to
Arena Club. It's all in one place. You know you're getting a good price, whether you're buying it or you're selling cards. If you're new to it, you don't want all the other crappy cards. You can get the ones that you want. You can start your collection. And if you get them on Arena Club, your collection will look boss.
That's right. And may I mention, they also have Pokemon cards in those slab packs that we talk about every week. You can rip a pack for as low as $25 and hit on a card that's worth tens of thousands of dollars because every pack has grails that are at least 20x the price of the pack. So get involved at arenaclub.com/foul. Use the code FOUL to get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase.
Let's actually talk about the team now. They're playing well. They're playing really well right now. They're swinging the bat. Bogarts is kind of turned a corner a little bit. What's changed? What's changed for these Padres?
Their best hitters are all actually hitting at the same time, which is something they have not had most of the season. Xander Bogaerts was one of the worst hitters in baseball for the first 2.5 months. He was bottom 10 among all qualified hitters in OPS. Over the last month and a half, he's hitting well over 300 with an OPS over 930. Fernando Tatis Jr. over his last 20 games, he's hitting over 300 with an OPS in the 940s. Jackson Merrill was slumping. He had a 2-home-run game against the Phillies. He's on a 9-game hitting streak. Manny Machado and Luis Arias have been pretty consistent all year. So now that the Padres are getting all of their key hitters swinging the bat at the same time, we're seeing them reach levels of offense they haven't for a while. The Padres have scored 7+ runs in half of their games since the All-Star break. They didn't score 7 runs in a game for a full month before that. So the key guys hitting is a big reason why. At the same time, guys are going to have ups and downs. They're going to have highs and lows, as we've seen from all these guys this year. So the Padres can't just count on all these guys being hot at the exact same time for 2 months straight, really 3 months straight. They need to get some other hitters to supplement to be able to pick up the slack when one of those guys gets hurt or goes through a slump, as they inevitably will, because we're talking about baseball. It happens.
Baseball's hard, Kyle. Just remember that hitting is really hard to do. So it does go like this, okay? And the best ones keep the lows high and the highs higher. All right, but what about the starting pitcher for tonight? Darvish, 0-3 with over a 9 ERA, a lot of high whip, hasn't been able to go deep, hasn't been able to miss a lot of bats. He's over 40 years old now. Like, what are we looking at here with Darvish? I know he's signed, right, for a couple more years too.
Yeah, the Padres gave him an extension. He signed through age 42. Darvish is still, in a lot of ways, building up from his elbow inflammation that kept him out for most of the season. You have to remember, he only made one rehab start, came out of that with some elbow tightness, and after that was just throwing simulated games, was throwing some sides, some bullpen sessions. He didn't really have much of a buildup in terms of 2 or 3 rehab starts to get used to the adrenaline, the feel of pitching an actual game. That's what these last 3 starts have been. They've almost been part of his rehab process. The Padres' hope is now, as we move into start 4, 5, 6, we start to see some improvements and get back to the old Yu Darvish. They're not too worried about his last 3 starts just because the way his rehab went. But if this continues, yeah, it's going to be a concern.
Come back if he had elbow tightness. Like, I don't know. I mean, you can't afford, if you're the Padres, you can't afford to give away games. No?
And again,
am I wrong?
They gave him a little bit of time off after that elbow tightness, and they decided the best rehab continuation from that elbow tightness was to just keep him throwing simulated games and off to the side. So whether that was wise or not is obviously up for debate, but that was the decision they made.
He hadn't pitched for most of the season.
I know but you would think you need the rehab to build up. I mean, this isn't Ohtani where you get an extra roster spot to build a guy up in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
This is like games the Padres need. Padres are in the thick of it. That's why, I don't know. That's why it's surprising to hear. And listen, I played with you. I've known you for a long time. So, I mean, if anyone could do it, it would be Yu Darvish. But, man, the Padres, these are important games for the Padres.
No question about it. And look, the Padres, part of the reason they're in position to be aggressive buyers at the deadline is they have been playing well. They had a losing record in June, their first losing month. July got off to an uneven start, but they've won 4 straight, taking the last 2 against the Cardinals in St. Louis, which is always tough, taking the first 2 of the series against the Mets. They won a series against the Phillies. The Padres are 59-49. They've actually created some breathing room between them and the rest of the wild card field. They're 3 games up on the Reds, who are the first team out. The Padres are the last team in right now. There was a point earlier this month the Padres had fallen out of playoff position, and their record was creeping closer and closer to 500. To their credit, in large part because of how good the offense has been recently, and again, the bullpen being lights out, the Padres are playing really well, and that is what has put them in position to be aggressive and make some of these potentially big, aggressive type of moves. 3 weeks ago, it wasn't clear they were going to be in position to do this, and to the team's credit, they have put themselves in position.
Yeah, and if there's 2 or 3 more of these starts for Darvish, he'll probably go back on the IL.
Yeah, I know. But
they're trying to see if he can work through it.
2 or 3 are, if it comes down to it, which at one point it will look like it was, that could be the difference between getting it and not getting it. But, they have created some distance because some other teams have kind of fallen apart.
Gosh, the Giants. Yeah.
The Giants are one of them.
Yeah, the Giants really fell apart. Let's finish with that, Kyle. The NL West was looked at this super division for the first couple months of the year. What happened?
The Giants and Diamondbacks fell off. The Diamondbacks didn't get off to a great start, but there was a point where they were starting to pick it up. You saw this explosive offense, but the pitching just combination didn't stay healthy or effective enough, so they obviously have fallen off. Now they're clear sellers. And look, the Giants offense has been one of the worst in baseball for the better part of 3 months now. It started on May 15th and hasn't really gotten better. They were still able to scratch out some games. They acquired Rafael Devers. You say, hey, they're in position to take off. Instead, they have the worst record in baseball since June 15th when they acquired Devers. And Devers has not been great, but it's not like it's been his fault. The entire offense has just not been producing. A lot of guys are not performing to the levels they should. And this has kind of been a problem for the Giants year in and year out, finding the right offensive mix. And once again, it just isn't happening. And to the Padres' credit, they have taken advantage. Their offense was almost as bad as the Giants for the same stretch, but they did a better job staying afloat. And then once their guys started finding their rhythm again, they've been able to create some separation.
Kyle, great stuff. I'm sure we'll be chatting, and we'll be hearing from you on Friar Territory when AJ Preller does his thing, and we know he will, right?
Absolutely. We'll have a full wrap-up show. We've got Heath Bell, we've got Mike Cameron, we've got all sorts of guests, so we will have you covered top to bottom for whatever the Padres do.
Thank you, Kyle. We'll talk to you soon.
And subscribe to Friar Territory, too.
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, absolutely. There it is. There's Kyle and Heath. They'll be breaking down trades for you, so head over to Friar Territory. They're looking for their 1,000 subs. They're in the mid-8s, so give them a little love right now. Kyle's one of the best and nicest in the biz.